My name is Lauren Shaw, and I'm 41 years old. I served as the Chief Financial Officer at IronBridge Dynamics, a mid-sized tech firm based in Charlotte, North Carolina. For 7 years, I worked side by side with our founder and CEO, Victor Holloway. Together, we turned a once floundering software company into a respected name in business automation. Victor had an instinct for people and a strict, no-nonsense approach to leadership. He valued integrity over flash performance over pedigree. He became a mentor to me, and when I was promoted to CFO at just 34, it was because I had earned it, not because I knew someone. Like a lot of people in my generation, I wasn't handed anything. I put myself through college, while waiting tables got my CPA, and spent my nights grinding through an MBA. When I joined IronBridge, we had fewer than 100 employees. By the time things unraveled, we had more than 300. The unraveling began the moment Victor's son, Brandon, returned from Stanford with a brand new MBA and zero real-world experience. He joined us as a strategic advisor. I tried to welcome him with an open mind. Maybe he just needed time to grow into the role, but from our very first meeting, I saw the truth. Brandon wasn't here to learn. He was here to conquer. His handshake was cold, his eyes calculated. And when he found out I'd been promoted at the same age, he was now without the help of family, something shifted. He carried himself with a sense of entitlement that clashed hard with IronBridge's culture. At his first executive meeting, he made sure everyone knew he was a Stanford grad before he even said hello. Victor introduced him with quiet pride, but Brandon responded like he already owned the place. I extended an olive branch. The finance team's happy to walk you through anything you'd like. Brandon smiled and replied, "Thanks, Lauren. I actually did a case study on companies like this during my MBA. I've got a few ideas we might explore." Translation: I don't need your help. Over the next few weeks, I invited him to join budgeting reviews, forecasting sessions, anything to help him acclimate. He either declined or showed up late and checked his phone the entire time. Around Victor, he played the part of humble student. But when Victor wasn't around, Brandon's second-guess strategy undermined my decisions and called long-standing policies outdated relics. Still, I held on to hope. I thought maybe time and exposure to real leadership would change him. After all, Victor built this company on solid values, but some people aren't shaped by experience. They're shielded from it. And Brandon wasn't here to learn. He was here to replace. And he had no idea what he was walking into. Looking back, I realize now how naive I had been. I didn't fully understand the difference between someone like Victor Holloway, who built IronBridge Dynamics with grit and vision, and someone like his son Brandon, who simply expected to inherit it. The warning signs were all there from the beginning. But I was loyal to Victor, and I loved the company we'd built together. That loyalty blinded me to the threat already seated in our executive suite. Everything changed 6 weeks after Brandon arrived. One Monday morning, Victor called an unexpected leadership meeting. As soon as I saw him, I knew something was wrong. The confident spark in his eyes had dulled, and his posture, usually so upright, seemed slack. He began with unexpected news. "My doctor has advised me to take a medical leave," he said, trying to soften the blow. "Nothing life-threatening, but I need a couple months to focus on treatment and lower my stress levels." A heavy silence settled over the room. Victor was the heart of IronBridge. His absence would ripple through every department. Then came the shift. "Lauren will oversee operations during my absence," he announced. "She knows our systems, our people, and our goals. She has my complete trust." And then, with a glance toward his son, "Brandon will continue learning the business under Lauren's guidance. Include him in key discussions." After the meeting, Victor pulled me aside. "Brandon's eager," he said, lowering his voice. "But he's green. Use your judgment. Keep things steady." "I will, I promised. Just focus on getting better." The first week went smoothly. Brandon stayed quiet in meetings, asked a few good questions, and mostly observed. I let myself believe things might work out. But by week 2, I noticed subtle shifts. Brandon began holding private meetings with department heads, leaving me out of the loop. When I asked about a conversation with our tech director, he brushed it off as just getting to know the team. Then came the monthly budget meeting. Brandon arrived with a glossy pitch deck and a proposal to cut R&D by 30%. Our investment isn't yielding enough, he said confidently. Let's redirect that money into sales and marketing. I calmly pushed back. Those numbers ignore our market position. Our next product launch depends on that investment. Your father signed off on this strategy last quarter. Markets evolve. So should we, he said, brushing me off. The disagreement grew tense, and what concerned me more than his tone was the reaction in the room. Colleagues who had once backed our strategy, like James from sales, suddenly aligned with Brandon. I saw it in their eyes, a shift in allegiance. That night, I received 3 emails from team leads, quiet warnings. Brandon had made promises to clients we couldn't fulfill. He was asking HR about restructuring. He was undermining systems he didn't even understand. I called Victor, but his wife answered. He's under doctor's orders, no work calls, she said kindly. But IronBridge was already drifting off course, and Brandon was at the helm. Is it urgent? Sandra Holloway asked gently. I hesitated. No, just routine questions. Please tell Victor we're managing fine, he should focus on recovery. But as I ended the call, a sharp unease set in. I wanted to believe things would stabilize, that Brandon's missteps were just growing pains. I had no idea how fast things would unravel. 3 weeks into Victor's leave, I discovered Brandon had quietly altered our vendor approval process without running it by finance. His new policy allowed any department head to bypass financial oversight for contracts under $52,000 a year. A control I'd implemented years ago to prevent fraud had just been erased. I called Brandon into my office. I noticed procurement issued new vendor guidelines. That process removes safeguards we need. He didn't flinch. Those controls are outdated and inefficient. Multiple approvals for office chairs and service calls? It's just red tape. That red tape stopped a $30,000 fraud attempt last year, I countered. There's a reason those controls exist. Brandon crossed his arms. Lauren, I know you've been here a long time, but the company needs to evolve. My father asked me to modernize operations, and that's what I'm doing. And I'm telling you, that's not modernization. It's recklessness. He refused to back down. We hit an impasse. Days later, our enterprise sales director pulled me aside. You should know Brandon's been making promises to our top clients. Customizations, accelerated timelines. Things we can't deliver. I called an emergency product meeting. How bad is it? I asked. Ben, our product lead, looked exhausted. For MaxiCorp alone, he promised a 3-month delivery cycle without telling us. We'd need 2 full-time engineers and delay every other project. Stephanie from Customer Success added, he told Tech Group we'd cut onboarding from 8 weeks to 3. If you want to hear more powerful stories of courage and triumph in the face of adversity, don't forget to subscribe because the next chapter is coming soon and you won't want to miss what happens next. I scanned the room. Did anyone tell him these weren't possible? We tried, Ben said. He accused us of being stuck in old habits. To make matters worse, Brandon had formed a strategic innovation task force. It was mostly junior staffers, dazzled by his Stanford credentials. They produced bold but impractical recommendations that clashed with our current roadmap. And worse, employees who questioned him were suddenly reassigned. Maria, our lead financial analyst, had voiced concerns about Brandon's spending. A week later, she was moved to an inventory audit project far beneath her expertise. It wasn't development, it was exile. Still serving as CFO, I had access to all transactions. That's when I found it a $75,000 payment to a firm called NextFrame Strategies. The contract was vague competitive market positioning and signed solely by Brandon under a clause meant only for CEO-level emergencies. A quick search revealed NextFrame was incorporated just 3 months ago. Its founder, Patrick Wilson, Brandon's former Stanford classmate. No website, no clients, no history. This wasn't innovation. This was abuse of power and possibly fraud. I tried Victor's phone. No answer. I called the house again. Sandra answered. He's still at the facility. No calls allowed. Sandra, this is serious. The company is in trouble. There was a long pause. Her tone cooled. Brandon said you might react this way. My stomach sank. I wasn't just being ignored. I was being shut out. Brandon mentioned you might call Sandra, said coolly. He told us you're having trouble adjusting to the new leadership and seeing the bigger picture. Victor needs this time to rest. That final sentence lingered in my mind. Brandon had clearly been speaking with her, shaping a version of events where I was resistant, territorial, maybe even unstable. It explained the subtle distance I'd begun to feel. And now, I was alone. The final blow came during Thursday's leadership meeting. Brandon stood at the head of the table, voice confident and tone rehearsed. Next week, we'll begin implementing a company-wide restructuring to streamline operations and reduce redundancies. He didn't look at me once, but I didn't need eye contact to know exactly who was being targeted. That night, I stayed late at the office, poring over IronBridge's governance documents. As CFO, I had reviewed these dozens of times, but this time I read with new urgency. According to company policy, only the CEO or the board could terminate an executive. Brandon's temporary title gave him no such power. Still, I had a bad feeling, and Monday morning confirmed it. At 5:30 a.m., I received an email from Brandon requesting a personnel meeting at 8 a.m. The new HR director, Amanda, barely 2 weeks in, was copied. The subject line read, "Urgent transition discussion." I arrived early, prepared for anything. Brandon and Amanda sat at the far end of the table, faces stiff with manufactured professionalism. Lauren Brandon began, "Thank you for coming. After reviewing our executive structure, we've concluded that your role as CFO is no longer aligned with the company's direction." I stayed silent. I wanted to hear the full performance. "The finance function will be consolidated under the Strategic Operations Division," he continued, "effective immediately. 6.5 years of building our financial systems from scratch. Late nights, year-end audits, securing vendor deals, all dismissed with a single paragraph from someone who'd barely been here 2 months. On what authority are you making this decision?" I asked calmly. Brandon slid a document across the table. "I've been granted full restructuring powers while my father recovers." I glanced at it. The signature didn't look like Victor's. The language contradicted company bylaws. I met his eyes. "This is not legitimate. Executive terminations require board or CEO approval. This is neither." Amanda spoke for the first time. "Lauren, the severance package includes 3 months of salary and extended benefits." "This isn't about severance," I interrupted. "It's about governance. And this is neither ethical nor legal." Brandon's mask slipped. "You're questioning my integrity." "I'm questioning your authority," I said flatly. Though privately, yes, I questioned both. "I'd like to speak with Victor directly." "That's not possible," Brandon snapped. "He's under strict orders, no business calls." Amanda tried to steer things back. "We'd like your desk cleared by 5 p.m. A security escort will be assigned." I rose heart steady now. "Then I'll be speaking with legal counsel. I suggest you review company policy carefully." Brandon's face flushed. "Clear your desk by 5. Your access will be revoked at 5:01. I walked out stunned, not by fear, but by clarity. He thought I was gone. He had no idea I'd just begun. The walk back to my office felt like a funeral procession. Colleagues looked up with a mixture of pity and discomfort. Some offered sympathetic nods. Others avoided eye contact altogether. Greg, our longtime security officer, who had always greeted me with a warm "Morning, Ms. Shaw," now followed behind me, quiet and visibly uncomfortable. I didn't hold it against him. He was just doing his job. I spent the next few hours methodically packing my things. Framed photos, awards, handwritten notes from past interns. As I boxed up 6 years of my professional life, I also began discreetly saving documents I was legally entitled to as CFO, my contract, my performance evaluations, emails documenting my objections to Brandon's decisions, and board meeting summaries related to financial oversight. I avoided anything confidential or proprietary. I wasn't here to burn the place down. I just wanted the truth on my side. At 4:55 p.m., I took one last look around the office where I'd worked countless nights, built reliable systems, and defended this company's future. The walls were bare now, the desk empty. The chair still slightly swiveled from this morning's chaos. Greg escorted me to the lobby. As we reached the exit, he muttered, "I'm sorry, Lauren." I managed a small smile. "You've always been kind." "Thank you." When the glass door shut behind me, I felt the full weight of what had happened. Anger, sadness, betrayal. I wasn't just grieving a job, I was grieving a vision I had helped build, now being quietly destroyed by someone who didn't understand its value. That night, back at my apartment, I allowed myself to unravel for 1 hour. 1 hour of disbelief, crying, second-guessing. Then I poured a glass of wine and opened my laptop. At 10:37 p.m., I received a text from Melissa, our senior accountant. Lauren Brandon's asking IT to archive Q2 and Q3 finance data. Says it's server maintenance, but I'm not buying it. Thought you should know. That snapped me out of my haze. This wasn't just about me anymore. If Brandon was altering records, the company, its clients, employees, and shareholders was at risk. Victor's legacy was at risk, I texted back. Thanks for the heads up. Be careful. If anything else happens, let me know, but protect yourself first. By morning, I was at Eleanor Webster's office. She was an expert in employment law and corporate fraud. After reviewing my materials, she said, "Your termination doesn't follow your contract or IronBridge's bylaws. That delegation document, it won't hold." What do I do? We could file an injunction, but I recommend you reach Victor or a board member and start documenting any questionable financial activity. After leaving her office, I called Ashley, my former executive assistant. "Things are weird," she whispered. "Brandon's been meeting with reps from Apex Technologies, our biggest competitor. Can you find out anything I'll try?" He's using the 6th floor conference room. No windows. That afternoon, Ashley sent me photos of a printed draft agreement. Brandon was preparing to sell our core tech division to Apex for a fraction of its worth, and he'd secured himself a personal consulting deal for $1 million a year. This wasn't poor judgment. This was betrayal. This was corporate theft on a massive scale. Brandon was secretly selling off pieces of his father's company for his own personal gain. Disguised as a strategic partnership, these deals threatened the very foundation of IronBridge Dynamics. Without hesitation, I contacted Margaret Reynolds, the longest-serving board member and a trusted friend of Victor. Margaret had been skeptical the first time I raised concerns, but I hoped this new evidence would change her mind. "Margaret, I've uncovered documentation showing Brandon negotiating to sell IronBridge's core technology division to Apex Technologies without proper board approval. I'm sending the files now." Her initial tone was dismissive. "Lauren, I understand you're upset about the recent changes, but accusations like this? This isn't about me," I interrupted firmly. "This affects every employee and shareholder, including Victor's majority stake." After a long pause, her tone shifted. "Where did you get these documents?" "That's not important right now," I replied. "What matters is stopping this before irreparable damage is done." "Have you spoken directly with Victor recently?" "Only through Sandra," she said. "She says he's under intensive treatment and must not be disturbed. Margaret, I need to reach Victor immediately. This situation requires his intervention." She told me Victor was supposedly at Lakeside Medical Center. I thanked her and immediately called the hospital. "Lakeside Medical Center? How may I direct your call? I'm trying to reach a patient named Victor Holloway." There was a brief pause. "I'm sorry, we have no record of a Victor Holloway currently admitted." My suspicions deepened. I called Rebecca, a nurse friend who worked at Lakeside. "Rebecca, I need a favor. Victor is said to be here for cardiac treatment, but the front desk says otherwise. Can you confirm she checked the system? No record of him in the last 3 months. Are you sure about this?" This revelation changed everything. Either Victor was somewhere else, or the story of his treatment was fabricated. Given Brandon's history of deception, I feared the latter. After relentless investigation and calls to mutual contacts, I discovered Victor and Sandra were actually at Whispering Pines Resort, a luxury wellness retreat 3 hours away. Victor was taking a stress reduction break, not critical medical treatment. I decided to drive there immediately. The 3-hour drive gave me time to organize my evidence. If Victor truly didn't know what was happening, I needed to show him proof. At Whispering Pines, I hit my first roadblock: strict privacy policies. Without an appointment or guest status, I couldn't get past the front desk. After waiting an hour in the lobby, hoping to spot Victor or Sandra, I saw Michael, Victor's personal trainer, heading to the gym. I approached quickly, Michael, it's Lauren from IronBridge. I need to speak with Victor urgently about a company emergency. He seemed surprised. Lauren, Victor said you're handling things while he's away. He's probably finishing his meditation session in the East Garden. Following Michael's directions, I found Victor alone on a bench. He looked healthier than I'd seen in months, but was clearly shocked to see me. Lauren, what are you doing here? Is everything okay? No, Victor. Everything is not okay. I need to talk privately about IronBridge. His expression shifted from surprise to concern. In his suite, I laid out my evidence-forged authorization documents, removed vendor controls, suspicious consulting contracts, and the Apex deal drafts. Victor's face paled as he reviewed everything. When he saw the Apex agreement, his hands trembled. "This can't be real," he whispered. "Brandon would never." "I believe he forged your signature to seize power," I said gently. Victor sat silent for minutes before softly saying, "I trusted him completely. I wanted him to learn the business the right way. He told everyone I was under intensive treatment and couldn't be disturbed. Even Sandra believed it. He looked at me with renewed determination. This ends now. We're going back to the office immediately." As we prepared to leave Victor's suite, Sandra walked in, visibly shocked. "Lauren, what are you doing here?" she asked. Before I could answer, Victor spoke. "Lauren has brought some disturbing information about what's happening at IronBridge. We need to return immediately," I said. Sandra hesitated, but Brandon said everything was fine. "He calls me every day with updates." "Brandon hasn't been truthful," Victor said firmly, holding up a forged authorization document. "Look at this signature." Sandra examined it, confusion turning to disbelief. "I thought it looked odd, but Brandon said you were rushed before your treatment." "There is no treatment, Sandra," I said quietly. "This was a planned break, not a medical emergency." Brandon used that story to keep everyone from contacting Victor. Sandra's shock turned to anger. "I can't believe he'd do this." "This is just the beginning," I said, gesturing to the stack of evidence. "There's much more you need to see." Victor nodded, gratitude and determination in his eyes. "Let's save my company." The next morning at precisely 9 a.m., Victor and I walked into IronBridge headquarters. Brandon was leading an executive meeting. His shock was almost comical. "Dad?" Brandon stammered, rising. "What are you doing here?" "You should be resting," Victor said calmly but firmly. "I think we both know the truth." "I was never under intensive treatment," Victor said. "Why did you lie about it?" The room fell silent. Brandon tried to regain control. "I was protecting you from stress. We acted according to your wishes." "Your wishes," Victor repeated sharply. "Was it your wish to forge my signature?" Brandon paled. "I don't know what Lauren told you, but don't blame Lauren." Victor interrupted. "I've seen the documents. The authorization giving you power is a forgery. I never signed it." Brandon looked around, desperate for support, but found none. Even Amanda from HR avoided his gaze. Victor placed the draft Apex Technologies agreement on the table. "Were you planning to sell our core tech division to our biggest competitor? Or was that supposed to spare me stress?" Shock rippled through the room. Most hadn't known about the secret deal. Brandon's last defense. "It's a strategic partnership for IronBridge's long-term benefit. Sometimes hard choices are necessary." "And your $1 million consulting contract?" I asked quietly. Victor raised a hand. "I've called an emergency board meeting for 11 a.m. Brandon, you're suspended. Surrender your access and await the decision." Brandon seemed ready to protest, but didn't. He removed his ID badge and left. The meeting was decisive. The board unanimously terminated Brandon and reversed all unauthorized actions, including my dismissal. They authorized an independent audit of all decisions made during Victor's absence. Later, Victor and I met privately. The strain was visible on his face. I spoke with Brandon. He said, disappointment heavy in his voice. He still thinks he acted in the company's best interest. "Did he explain the Apex deal or consulting contract?" I asked. "No." Victor shook his head. He said the consulting was standard practice, and he wanted to shield me from details. I almost felt sorry for Victor. Almost. "I want to apologize," Victor said. I put you in a terrible position. I thought bringing Brandon in would prepare him, but failed to ensure he understood our values. You couldn't have known, I said gently. No, but I should have seen the signs. He cared about title, not business. Victor sighed deeply. The board wants to reinstate you as CFO and publicly acknowledge the mistake. Will you come back? Despite the pain, my commitment was firm. Yes, but we must rebuild trust and heal the damage. Victor nodded. Agreed. There's much work ahead. The weeks that followed were challenging. We addressed client concerns, retained key staff, and stabilized culture. Governance reforms improved succession and decision transparency. Anonymous ethics reporting was introduced. Victor focused on mentoring leaders beyond family. Brandon left without criminal charges, but his reputation was ruined. Months later, Victor publicly thanked me, restoring integrity to IronBridge. IronBridge exists today because Lauren Shaw had the courage to stand up for what was right. Even at great personal risk, Victor told the assembled staff that is the integrity I expect from everyone, myself included. The applause was for more than just me, it was for restoring the values that made IronBridge special. We faced a leadership crisis and emerged stronger, recommitting to merit, transparency, and ethical conduct. 6 months later, IronBridge wasn't just recovered, it was thriving. Our latest product launch earned industry praise for innovation and user experience. Employee satisfaction scores rebounded to their highest in years. Remarkably, our stock hit an all-time high after surpassing revenue targets for consecutive quarters. The board recognized my role during that tough period by promoting me to Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer. I worked alongside Victor with expanded responsibilities beyond finance. Our relationship evolved into a genuine partnership. Though I had respected Victor as a mentor, we now operated as equals. He sought my input on strategic decisions, not just financially, but for broader business impact. In return, I gained deeper appreciation for his vision and leadership style. The experience transformed me. Before Brandon's coup attempt, I was confident technically, but hesitant to confront conflict. Now I state my positions clearly, without fear of discomfort. This confidence spread beyond work, improving personal relationships and community involvement. At an industry conference, I unexpectedly saw Brandon in the hotel lobby. He looked less polished, far less arrogant. We exchanged brief nods, and I started to walk away when he asked Lauren, "Do you have a minute?" Curiosity won. "A minute. I want to apologize," he said, sounding sincere. "What I did to you? The company, my father. It was unforgivable." "Why did you do it?" I asked, a question I'd held for months. He paused. I thought I had to prove myself that education and family gave me immediate respect and authority. I convinced myself modernizing justified any means. In the Apex deal, the consulting contract. He looked ashamed. Ambition turned ugly. I thought I deserved more than I earned. He added, "I've reflected a lot. I'm now at a smaller company starting at the bottom, really learning the business." I nodded, appreciating his honesty, but keeping distance. "I hope things go well for you," I said. "Thank you. And thank you for stopping me before I ruined everything my father built." That brief encounter brought unexpected closure. Brandon's actions hurt us deeply, but ultimately strengthened both me and IronBridge. Back at the company, I launched a mentoring program for women in finance and tech, helping them overcome career hurdles I'd faced. The program quickly became one of our most valued employee initiatives, with participants gaining confidence and clarity. Victor began planning his retirement carefully, transferring knowledge to multiple successors, selected by merit and values, not family ties. Through all this, I healed personally. The initial shock left scars, requiring work with a leadership coach, transforming pain into wisdom. I rebuilt my professional confidence, knowing my skills and integrity were my true strength. The anxiety after the crisis faded, replaced by grounded confidence in handling future challenges. The biggest lesson was that business integrity is a practical necessity, not an abstract ideal. When Brandon broke ethical principles for gain, he fractured the trust that held IronBridge together. Victor summed it up. Best integrity is not optional. It's the foundation of everything. I now lead with bold authenticity, asking tough questions to keep us aligned with core values. Courage to stand alone inspires others. Many employees said, watching me fight Brandon gave them strength to speak up. We incorporated real ethics training based on these events, helping leaders recognize and handle challenges. Looking back, what began as personal pain revealed my true purpose. Defending the company taught me that leadership isn't about title or family, but about living the values you expect of others. Integrity is the foundation of a lasting legacy. When solid, no storm can destroy what we build. If you followed my story, you know it wasn't easy standing up against injustice, especially when it meant risking everything I worked for. I hope my journey inspires you to stand firm in your values, even when the odds feel stacked against you. Please leave a comment, share your thoughts or stories about moments when you had to stand up for what was right. Your support means the world to me, and together we can encourage each other to act with integrity and courage in every part of life. Remember, your integrity is your most valuable asset. Don't let anyone make you doubt your worth or silence your voice. Whether at work and relationships or in daily choices, always lead with honesty and respect. When you stay true to yourself and your principles, you build a foundation that no challenge can shake. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe and join me for more real stories and lessons on strength, resilience, and standing up for what's right.